Announcement that has just been made in the last hour or so that the Oakden Older Persons Mental Health Facility will be closed. Many of you, I'm sure, have been following this story for quite some time. Oakden is a facility that has been providing specific services, accommodation included, to older people who also experience mental illness and dementia or other conditions often related to age. This facility has had concerns raised about it for a long time. Many of you would know the nature of them. They're very harrowing: neglect, abuse, violence, people living in unhygienic facilities, unsafe facilities, not being supported properly, and so on. It's very harrowing, the many stories that have come out. I found it very upsetting to read about, so I can only imagine the emotions that the people living in this facility and their families have gone through. So Dignity Party certainly welcomes the announcement from the government that this abhorrent facility will be shut down. What happens next, of course, is the big question, because of course we know that institutions don't only involve the bricks and mortar. It's about the culture that exists in those facilities and the fact of whether or not people are properly supported to live dignified, autonomous lives that are safe and healthy. So our next questions are: what happens once the facility shuts down, and where will the residents be moved to? What options will they be given to move to in terms of their next accommodation options? Dignity Party certainly hopes that people living in Oakden will be directly involved in choosing where they live next. After the neglect and abuse that many of these people have experienced for many years, the very least we can do is directly involve them in where they live next. And the report that has come out about the shutdown announcement does state that the residents' families will be consulted about where the people will move to next. I don't think this is good enough. I think the people actually living and having lived through this abuse and neglect, at the very least, need to be involved in discussions and making choices about where they move to next. So while we welcome this announcement that the facility will shut down, certainly a lot of questions about what happens next, and we'll continue to lobby to make sure that the people at Oakden are directly involved in what happens to them next. I think it's the very least of what we owe them as a community after everything that they have experienced. We'll also call on the government to ensure funding in the upcoming state budget, next state budget, to ensure that we upgrade and, if necessary, build new facilities that allow best practice for the care and support of people who are aging and have both mental illness and dementia. We live in a 21st century country, a very wealthy country, and one in which I think we can at least expect best practice from our government when we make the very difficult decision to place our very loved ones into care. So we'll continue to lobby for that, those facilities to be upgraded, and if necessary, new ones to be built, so that we can ensure, at the very least, that the infrastructure is up to date and providing the best possible opportunities to people living with both mental illness and dementia. But as I've said, institutions are not just about the bricks and mortar. We need to make sure that the people working in those facilities and the people providing that support are not abusing, are not neglecting, are not perpetrating violence, and are also, of course, aware of how to involve people in their care to the utmost ability in the decisions that impact their lives. So we will continue to lobby to make sure that we have adequate funding and support for people in these situations, that they are directly involved in the situations that impact their lives, including where they move to once they can no longer live at Oakden, and we look forward to keeping you updated as that progresses. Thank you.